Hi, this is Martin with My IELTS Tutor. I want to thank you for joining me today. Today we're continuing our lessons on IELTS General Writing Task 1, the letter. So let's begin. Now, today I'm going to talk about task achievement. Task achievement is the first criteria for scoring in this task, and it makes up 25% of the overall score for Task 1 writing. But however, what I'm going to talk about is going from band 6 to band 8. That's right. That means going from instead of writing a band 6 letter, I'm going to teach you how to write a band 8 for task achievement. So let's begin. Now, to begin, I have the descriptors for both band 6 and band 8. So band 6, we have addresses the requirements of the task. That means you fulfill all the requirements that are needed for the task. And then you present a purpose that is generally clear, but may be inconsistent with tone. And remember, I've been talking about tone a lot in the past lessons, and I'm still not done. I want to continue talking about tone, even in this lesson. And then it presents and adequately highlights the bullet points, but details may be irrelevant or inappropriate. Band 8 covers all the requirements of the task sufficiently. It also presents and highlights the bullet points clearly and appropriately. So let's continue now. So how do you get band 8 in task achievement? Well, there are only 3 things that you need to consider. First, consider the tone and purpose. You have to get the tone correct. You have to be correct in terms of the purpose as well. Then you need to consider the structure and include all the relevant parts. I'm going to talk about that also later on. And then you want to include all the bullet points and come up with the relevant details for each one. So now, tone and purpose. If you remember, we have 3 tones: informal, semi-formal, and formal. And from here on the slide, you can see the different relationships and situations that each tone could be used for. So if you remember, informal is for someone that's you have a close personal relationship. And the tone is, and the purpose could be personal, a social situation or a personal situation. Semi-formal, again, same type of relationship, but it can also be a work colleague, a co-worker, and the situation is somewhat similar or a little bit more formal, a more serious situation or a formal situation, such as an apology or an invitation, or it could be a work or health related issue. And then formal is always someone with some authority over you. This could be a bank manager or a store manager. It could be a government official, your supervisor. Maybe your parent, but probably not your parent, but someone with authority over you or someone you don't know personally. And then it's always about a serious situation. Now, the tip here to understand the tone is to pay attention to whom you are addressing, meaning who you are writing the letter to, as well as the purpose. Once you understand the tone of the letter, then you can write it accordingly in either of the tones. But it's up to you to decide which tone. Now, the purpose is based on the content of the letter, and that's stated in the topic. Now, the purpose is affected by tone, but really the purpose also influences the tone depending on the situation. So, knowing the purpose can indicate the tone, but the primary judge on tone is relationship. Now, the following are the common aims of a letter, and you see the possible tones that they would take. So we have complaints, invitations, applications, or resignations, requests, making arrangements, explanations, informative news or newsletter type. That's a letter that's usually telling the person what you did over the past year or 6 months or so. And I used to get something like that from my aunt, who would regularly send these out to all the family members on Christmas, detailing what her family did over the course of the previous year. And then, of course, we have apologies. Now, let's talk about structure. Now, I talked about the relevant parts of the structure. These are the relevant parts. We have greeting, such as Dear Mr. So-and-so, or Dear John, Dear Liz, or Hi Jane. Opening statement, body paragraphs, closing statement, signing off, and then a name, whether it's your name or a made-up name. You must have a name there. Now, let's look at this example here. You're going to another country to study. You would like to do a part-time job while you are studying, so you want to ask a friend who lives there for some help. Write a letter to this friend. Now, you see the 3 bullet points you need to include. Now, what is the tone of this? What do you guys think? What's the tone? Well, if you look at the key words, and that's what you want to do, use key words to determine the tone. And so we first see here, it's a friend. So this could be informal. Now, another key phrase is ask for some help. Ask for some help. So this could also be semi-formal too. So what's the tone? What's the tone? Is it informal or semi-formal? Well, informal because it's a friend, semi-formal because it's a request for some help. It could be, you could write it either way, informal or semi-formal. Doesn't matter. You won't get anything taken away if you write it in semi-formal or informal. You would if you wrote it in a formal tone though. So that's tone and purpose there. Now, let's talk about having a clear purpose. Now, we do this by writing our opening statement. And the opening statement performs this task. So I have a topic here: write a letter to the manager of a cinema movie theater about a jacket you have left behind after a film. So about a jacket you have left behind after a film. That suggests what the purpose is about. You're going to write about that. So you can see here, I have an opening statement. Your opening statement is 1 paragraph only. And I'm going to talk more about opening statements in I believe the next lesson. So stay tuned for that. Now, the first sentence here gives some basic introduction of who the writer is, and then you can see the underlined second sentence where it says, I am writing this letter. It begins, I am writing this letter. And that's and it's mentioning jacket that was lost at the cinema. So it's very clear to purpose. And so the 2 tips here are, the first paragraph must contain the opening statement. And the opening statement must be clear and to the point. If it's not clear, if it's not to the point, points will be deducted, and that will lower your band score for task achievement. Now, including the bullet points. So we have here the same topic. Now we have our bullet points. Describe the jacket, describe where you were seated, explain what you want to be done. Now I have two paragraphs, body paragraphs. That should be enough to hopefully give you the idea. I didn't include the third one. But if you can see, for the first one, describe the jacket, if we look at the first paragraph, our first two sentences are very specific details that describe the jacket. A black leather bomber jacket with a large patch of a peace sign on the back. Also, the jacket does have my name written on the inside label. So those are really specific details that you want to write to describe the jacket, or at least the person who wrote this wrote to describe the jacket. And then for the second one, describe where you were seated. Now, the second sentence gives that. The first sentence kind of gives some context of when that person was there, and it's relevant because it kind of introduces that point and adds a little bit more supporting details. So, but here, my seat was in row 38, and the seat number itself was 38A. And then in the first paragraph, we also have, the first sentence of the second paragraph, we have theater 6, so it's very specific which theater it was in. So now the tips for the body paragraphs. The first body paragraph should be focused on the first point. Same thing for the second body paragraph, should be focused on the second bullet point. Third body paragraph for the third bullet point. Okay, you must include details for each point and use very specific details, just like these paragraphs do. And then you may need to use your imagination to come up with details. Don't be afraid to do that, okay? You don't need a whole lot of details, just enough to get the idea across. You don't have to be very, very detailed. You may also want to use something from your own experience too. If you can't think of anything, it's okay. Now, you must also use supporting details as well to make your letter more understandable. And that's what this first sentence here in the second paragraph is. It's supporting details to make it a little bit more understandable. Rather than just saying, my seat was in row 38, you can say which cinema you were in and what date it was. And so that's an example of that. Now, your closing statement. Now, closing statement should be appropriate to tone and purpose. For example, this would be a formal tone. Any assistance you can offer me in finding the jacket would be greatly appreciated. I look forward to your reply. And so I'm going to talk about the closing statement later and in a future lesson. So stay tuned for that. Now, signing off. Signing off, this is where you signify the end of the letter, and it must match the tone and should be in line with the purpose. So, for example, yours sincerely works well for most purposes where the tone is formal. If the tone is not, you can say, thank you, sincerely, see you soon, something like that. That would be for informal. Yours faithfully generally works with invitations or requests to close personal relationships and where the tone is formal. Okay, that's what I suggest. Now, from the sample letter, we used yours sincerely. And then always, as I said, always end with a name. Formal letters should have the first name and surname. Informal letters can just be your own, just the first name only. Now, to review, how to get Band 8 in task achievement. Consider your tone and purpose. Consider structure, include all the relevant parts of the structure. And then finally, include all the bullet points and come up with details for each. Now, that's it for today. I want to thank you for joining me. Stay tuned for the next lesson, and I'll see you then. You guys take care. Thank you again.